Good afternoon, Acting Mayor, members of council. The meeting following recess is now being live streamed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Welcome back, members of the public, to this December 8th council meeting. I'll call it back to order. We'll reconvene, and we were at the point of the meeting where we're dealing with delegations. The next two delegations regarding 13.8 are regarding a proposed zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by Zanaz Rafi, care of Lulu Holdings Inc. at 227 Harding Boulevard West. And first of all, we have on behalf of the applicant a delegation from Ryan Guter from Western Consulting. Mr. Guter, there you are. Okay, go ahead. You have up to 5 minutes to address council on the application.
Well, good afternoon, Acting Mayor DiPaolo, members of council, and those that are tuning in. My name is Ryan Guter. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I did appear before you in the September meeting that this item was tabled at and ultimately was deferred at that time. I wanted to just report to everyone that we have since, as you'll see reflected in the staff report, from the time of the September meeting to today, we've since filed a site plan resubmission. And we've also addressed a reduction in the building height in a formal sense through the resubmission as well that occurred. And I would just simply want to respond as input to council's consideration of this report. The recommendations of staff are that the zoning application be approved, and they're contained with a series of recommendations dealing with the site-specific provisions. And there's some details about what would come back to council and steps to be taken prior to the bylaw being enacted, and also deals with matters related to any commentary being addressed through the site planning process, which we are in support of, the recommendations of staff. And you'll recall from the discussions that occurred, there was a lot of concern about stormwater management, erosion, downstream matters related to overall drainage concerns, and the deputant at the time raised issues about drainage and runoff to the adjoining lands, as well as other factors. I wanted to acknowledge the effort of staff that they did in providing an outline of that in the staff report in terms of the status, but I also wanted to highlight that this particular proposal seeks to provide enhanced controls for stormwater management that go beyond the criteria. So there is an enhanced level of control of retention of on-site water and dealing with runoff through low impact development measures as well that are proposed. So we have a variety of things that we're putting forward. And of course, the securing of those will come through the site plan and the site plan agreement, but they are contemplated, and staff have contained that analysis, as well as the issue of downstream related matters that are subject to the ongoing study associated with sections of the Don River, which again, this particular site is not contributing and not impacting in any way based on the analysis of the engineers. And that's reflected in the staff report. I also wanted to just briefly highlight that this application has been underway for many years. We believe that we've addressed all of the issues comprehensively. There were issues related to design, transportation, parking. We're meeting the parking requirements of the city. We're in conformity with the city's official plan. We've addressed the interface issues that delegations have been heard at the public hearing, and that relates to setting the building further back, adjusting the height of the building, and we're providing extensive and robust landscaping treatments as well as screening that will ensure privacy for the existing residents that abut the properties. I also wanted to note in my final remarks that we have established an analysis of the access. The transportation capacity has been assessed and reviewed and accepted by the region and by your staff. And the issues related to transportation are several, and they're outlined very well in the staff report and in the reports that contributed to the application. We looked at queuing, we looked at safety, we looked at access, proximity, We looked at the safety of the intersection itself, as well as the volume of traffic and trips generated, which is quite limited. And so
1 minute.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here to simply ask for this council's endorsement of the staff recommendations. And I'm happy to answer any questions that members may have, but we have gone through a complete and comprehensive process to this date, and would appreciate your support. And again, I appreciate Mr. Pesci has the opportunity to speak. If anything arises from his remarks, I'd be happy to respond at the will of council and the chair if it was helpful. So thank you for the opportunity, and on behalf of the applicant, we thank you for the opportunity to have this brought back forward to council. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Gooder. And we do note that you're on hand to answer questions should council members have questions of you. Okay, so the next delegation, the only remaining delegation is Emilio Pesci from 26 Lily Court regarding this application. Mr. Pesci, are you with us? Yeah, I see you there. I know you're connected, but if you turn on your video screen and unmute your microphone. We're still unable to hear or see you, but you are connected to the meeting. And down the bottom left corner, you'll be able to turn on your video screen and unmute your microphone. Okay, so there you are. Okay.
Me?
Very,
We can hear him.
we can hear you. Can't see you yet, but we can hear you, Mr. Pesci. You can go ahead.
The problem is that I have to go into my settings because I'm on my iPhone. I
Oh,
apologize.
no problem. Not a problem at all. Just go ahead. We hear you loud and clear, so you've got
Okay,
up to
thank
5
you.
minutes to address us.
All right, thank you. Well, good afternoon, councilors and mayor. My name is Emilio Pesci, homeowner of 26 Lily Court. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to council today with respect to the city's staff's recommendation to approve a revised zoning bylaw amendment application to permit medium density residential development at 227 Harding Boulevard West. First, let me say that after reading the report, I was pleased to know that many of the issues, concerns raised at the meeting held in September of this year were addressed, including the reduction in building height and the removal of parallel parking along the southerly property line and the proposed stormwater mitigation plan. While the report is comprehensive, there are 2 areas that are still unclear to me. Specifically, where the additional 2 parking spots will be located on the property, and where will garbage from each of the units be stored while waiting for collection. The location and management of waste is particularly of concern due to aroma issues, unsightliness, and pickup frequency, especially since a decision has been made that the garbage collection will be handled by the condominium corporation and not the city. As stated previously, as a ratepayer and Richmond Hill business owner, I support infill development if it is well designed and well integrated with the existing houses in the area. The city's official plan defines compatibility to be development which are mutually tolerant of one another and capable of coexisting together in harmony in the same area. The staff report goes to great length to explain that compatibility does not mean housing that is identical. I'm not asking for identical here. I'm, however, seeking that the development be mutually tolerant. It is my understanding that mutually tolerant means rights of property owners are the same and should be respected. The proposed development is abutted by 3 properties, 1 to it and 2 that back onto it, which 1 belongs to me. Under the proposed plan, the properties south and west of the development will have their backyards abutting up to what is effectively a private street going to 12 parking spaces and potentially a garbage bin, of all which will result in loss of backyard enjoyment and potentially property value. Unlike other cities, Richmond Hill does not have a companion guideline detailing the requirements for compatibility, reinforcing our concerns. In the absences of such guidelines, I respectfully request that the city require the completion of a compatibility report prior to approving this application. Also, I also want in writing to the neighbors abutting this development, if any trees are destroyed or a monetary compensation or a replacement from the City of Richmond Hill Director of Planning Department. I also like to have the city get an arborist to check the trees on the abutting properties in writing on their condition prior to any development. Also keep in mind the future development of the regional road will have major construction issues with these properties fronting Major Mac if this project were to go forward. Also, I also like to address council, as I feel that my rights as a homeowner and taxpayer have been violated due to this housing project proposal. My privacy is of great importance to myself and my family, which my neighbors have all agreed upon. To the same matter, I hope council makes an educated decision to end this project and move on to more important matters of growth in Richmond Hill. Please ensure that my delegation in its entirety is included in the public record. I want to wish all the councilors, the mayor, happy holidays to all you and your family. Stay safe. And thanks for allowing me to speak on my behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pesci. And I can assure you that your comments form part of the record and will be considered as we refer comments back to staff on this. I'm going to pass it over to the ward councillor, Councillor Silovitz, to lead off the council discussion on item 13.8.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Mr. Pesci and to Mr. Gada for their delegations today. I just want to reiterate what is in the staff recommendations, that this is being referred back to staff. We're not approving anything here today. I want to mention that I've said from the very beginning, I would have rather seen one house or two houses built at this location, not a bunch of townhouses. I continue to believe that it would have been a far better proposal for the existing residents. However, this is privately owned land, and what is before us is their right. And there are many things that conform. I want to thank staff and the applicant for working on the wastewater concerns, both drainage and containment. I'm satisfied that those concerns and objections have been appropriately addressed. And I want to remind residents that this will come back to council one more time, at least for our approvals, our final approvals for site plan. And if you continue to have any concerns, then I would suggest that once again you step forward as a delegate, or that you write in your comments for the public record. I believe that our staff have worked diligently with this applicant, and in the reverse as well. The applicant has worked diligently with myself and our staff and the residents as well. And I want to thank them for that, because at least they are respectful of the residents' concerns, and they have addressed them. The one concern that I would like to go back to staff at this point is when it comes time to, when this is approved, if this is approved, I want to address the construction vehicles. There's going to be a real problem here with construction vehicles. Staff is well aware of the terrible problems we've had to deal with at Westwood and Young, and this would be something similar, if not worse. So as staff continues conversations with the applicant, I would like to, I know that I've said this before, I'd like to ensure that that hopefully the region will allow construction vehicles and trades to be parked in a specific area on the very wide sidewalk area of the boulevard area. Sorry, of the sidewalk area, boulevard area that abuts Major Mackenzie. We're going to have a problem with trades parking their cars on Harding. We're going to have a problem with trades parking their cars on Lily, and the residents will have every right to object to that. We have enough concerns right now with the renovations and reconstruction going on at 250 Harding across the road with regards to the parking lot. And there have been many, many, many complaints that we've had to deal with regards to that. So let that be perhaps a harbinger of what is to come. And I would like to make sure that ensure the residents understand that this does have my attention. I'm sure it has councils and I'm sure it has staffs. So with that, again, my thanks, Mr. Chair, and I'll bring this matter forward, recommendations and referral comments back to staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Silovitz. Okay, is there someone who's going to second this motion from the ward councillor? Don't all raise your hand at the same time. Okay, I'll leave the chair to second it. Councillor West, thank you. Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Anyone else want to speak to this? Councillor West, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure of something here before I speak. This is only coming to us as a site plan because it's on a regional road. Is that right, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Kwan, I suppose?
Commissioner?
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, that's correct.
Okay, just to be clear, I mean, normally we don't deal with site plans except when under situations like that, or if it's in the site plan control area. So if this is approved today, will it come back to council?
Through you, Mr. Acting
Commissioner?
Mayor, the only thing coming back to council is the enactment of the zoning bylaw. Staff are recommending that the bylaw be approved and supported through this report, and that all other comments are referred back to staff regarding the site plan details.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, a little bit confused there. My bad. I'm not all that enthusiastic about this application either, to be honest with you. I mean, I understand why it's before us. I understand why, in the opinion of our planning staff, that it is there's a positive staff report. I think that, as we are in situations where we're making housing into smaller and smaller and smaller spaces, we're going to run into more and more and more conflicts. I mean, we all know this as council members. We see it frequently. There are a few indications in this staff report that I think, we're probably pushing it to the point where it is we are maxing out this little area, or relatively little area. I do appreciate, though, that staff and I guess probably the local councillor, I'm sure, and the residents as well have worked together and the applicant, have worked together to make some positive changes that make this better than it was initially. But I understand the remaining concerns that the residents have. I do specifically appreciate the reduction of building heights. I think that's important. I mean, if we're going to jam it in like this, we absolutely cannot give extra permissions for extra building height. It's a very innovative way to handle stormwater. And I suspect that infrastructure that is being installed in this property will work well, but it's it's going to be an engineered solution to what a larger lot with more permeable surfaces would have been able to handle. So I appreciate, but I mean, the benefit, though, is that the stormwater, I understand somewhere in the staff report, it said that they expect that the stormwater runoff will be less than it was presently, which I think is a net benefit. A good point and question was raised by Mr. Pesci about the garbage. So I understand that there is no central garbage receptacle in this particular location, or in this particular development. I'm assuming then that everybody in this unit, or in these units, will have green bins and blue bins that a private collector will come around and collect individually, as opposed to one location situation. I'll ask through you to Mr. Kwan first. I see Ryan has his virtual hand up, but I think I can probably get the answer from our commissioner, but if I can't, I would like it to go to Mr. Guter.
Okay, Commissioner Kwan.
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, the storage, I believe, is in the garage area, but I can actually, Mr. Guter, I'm sure, can provide more technical insight as to how that's actually being designed.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Guter, can you quickly answer that question, Mr. Guter?
Mr. Guter? Go ahead.
I was just permitted to respond, so happy to respond through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor West. So Commissioner is correct that there are individual storage units within each of the units confined to within the garage. There's a specific staging area that's been actually sufficiently sized to accommodate the waste needs with the waste management consultant that specifically looked at that. And of course, that is subject to a private waste hauler that we've provided documentation to the city confirming that, as well as the approach to how it would be collected from those units. So.
Okay, just to confirm my understanding then through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Guter. So each of these units inside an enclosed garage will have a place for their garbage, and then on whatever garbage day the private collector determines, they will put it out at their curb. The collector will come along, pick it up, and go away and leave the empty bins. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
All of it's stored inside.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I mean, I think that's probably good news in terms of the odor issue that Mr. Pesci was mentioning, because you won't have a centralized bin area, and it will be stored in an enclosed area. Anyway, I'm happy to second this just to move it along. I think ultimately this is probably the best that we're going to do in this particular situation. And so I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor West. I don't see other speakers. Councillor Munch, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. My concern continues, and I'd like to get it addressed. I really am impressed that we're talking about low impact development known as LID, so members of council can get used to that term. Very common term. I love that our municipality is starting to get into the environment, stormwater management in a much more substantive way, and we're using these terms on a regular basis, especially in an area with high water table issues and concerns. I would like, for example, to ask a question through the chair or through the chair. I would like to know, what is the status of the York Region Transit expansion on Major Mackenzie? Does anybody know?
Good question, Councillor Munch, and I'm probably maybe best able to answer as a regional representative. It is in the 10-year capital plan. As Richmond's representative on YRT, this is the next push is to have Major Mackenzie rapid bus transit ways similar to what's on Yonge Street and Highway 7. Major Mackenzie is the next proposed street, and YRT setting their priorities, and then York Region Council will be budgeting accordingly, and still a lot of work to do to lobby with the provincial and federal government to get that one-third partnership that was established to create the Yonge corridor.
So is there a time frame that we should be contemplating as a planning strategy as to when transit will be in that corridor?
It's 100% in the 10-year capital plan for the region. So it's got to be contemplated in our 10-year plan. So
through you, the chair, thank you so much for that, really, guys. And I assume all regional councillors I see, well, I guess Councillor probably being the only other regional councillor. Do you have anything to add to that?
Councillor Pirelli?
My apologies, Councillor Munch. I was having intermittent internet connection, so I did not hear any of your commentary.
I just wanted to see if we're talking about the transit across Major Mackenzie from York Region. I asked the question, and Acting Mayor answered it, and I want to give you the same opportunity. If you have anything else to add. The bus rapid transit that's going across Major Mackenzie, was it planned in the 10-year plan for York Region? The answer was yes. And number two is, should we be contemplating mass transit across Major Mackenzie? The answer was yes. And I said, okay. And then my question to you was, do you have any comments further to that?
Sorry, I'm missing the question. Did we move agenda item? Which one are we talking about now?
Okay, we've
This
got an
is-
application that's on the corner of Major Mac and
13.8.
Harding,
227 Harding there.
13.8.
Yes, 13.8. Yeah, that's, sorry, I failed to see. I'm not the applicant.
No, I'm just asking if you, as a regional representative that are aware of what's going on at the region, if you have anything to add from a regional perspective that you communicate other members of council that may not be aware of what the transit growth is going to be happening, what the plan is on Major Mackenzie, because we don't get that information often because we're not at the region all the time.
I guess while I was having intermittent internet problems, you said that Councilor DePaula already answered that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
my question to you is,
great.
my question.
I did. I said, it's in the 10-year plan for the region, so.
So you have the
Councilor
answer.
Munch-
Yeah, so I was just
Councilor Munch
asking,
wanted-
I was just offering you, and if you have anything additional to add, if you had anything to add, that was my question. If you don't, that's
Oh,
fine.
I'll put my card up if I want to speak, but thank you. Appreciate
Okay, so leave that aside. So through you, the chair, to the applicant and the applicant's representative, should this project get approved, what is the time frame expectation given the process framework that's traditional for you to move forwards? Is it going to be in 20 years, 10 years, 3 years, as soon as possible? What is it exactly?
That's to Mr. Guder, Councilor Munch?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Munch. My client is keen to move forward with concluding of the site planning process onto building permits and see construction as soon as possible, really and truly. We've been at this for a number of years, so subject to getting through the balance of the process and getting on with a building program, it would be at the earliest opportunity. That's helpful.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So given that we'll say within 5 years, it's likely that should this process evolve, that the applicant is going to move forwards with construction. My concern is with regards to egress and ingress out of that area. And I know there's been a transportation study. I would have preferred a lower parking standard on a transit corridor across the street from a hospital and a school and a health center. It's a very congested area. And I would encourage staff to consider this bus rapid transit across Major Mackenzie as a 10-year plan of the region. And we should be moving forwards with transit supportive to make sure that we get our investments utilizations to capacity for our precious resources. I would also say to you that that would help with the housing affordability because we're getting more value propositions. I also would have liked to see frankly, opportunity for lower income people to move into the neighborhood, whereby we have secondary suites and other suites that would allow people to have that walkable, livable area for walkouts with smaller, what have you. I know the applicant didn't go there. So the concern I have is with traffic and the egress and ingress out. I want to make sure that the safety and security of the area is there. I want to make sure we have a walkable, livable area that people are investing into the transit supportive major investments that our taxpayers are paying for and that we're catering to housing affordability, which is a massive challenge every single day now. We're seeing it. I'm glad that some members of council are starting to see it. It's been for me years. I'm glad that we're starting to talk about it. And also want to make sure that the security and safety and the livability of the neighborhood around them, that they have higher trees, not necessarily wood, but have some level of landscaping. And I'm really going to trust the applicant, the applicant's designate, that they would look into that to make sure that the existing residents have a livability opportunity and not build it.
Time, Councillor. Yeah.
Those are my comments for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers on this? I will just say, I guess, to the residents on Lily, that it could certainly be a lot worse. Major Mackenzie could be designated shortly for much higher density. This intersection could be the location of a major bus station and possibly a major transit stationary designation, which would impose very high densities. I think as much as it's a small site and there's it seems like a lot being pushed in here, but there could be a lot more forced on here. And I'm glad that the applicant seemed to have been willing to address a lot of those concerns that have been raised the last time we met on this issue. And I'm also glad to see the proper treatment of the sensitive environmental areas surrounding this site. So I am going to support the local councillor's motion. I guess I'll put it to a vote. I don't see other speakers. All those in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously, I believe. Okay, so that's 13.8. Our next item, our next delegation is speaking to us with regards to item 13.11. It's Ms. Pat Pollock from 67 Drummer and Crescent regarding the Integrity Commissioner's report from Charles Harnick, our Integrity Commissioner. So Ms. Pollock, are you here with us? There you are. Okay, you have up to 5 minutes to address council on this item.
Thank you. You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, councillors and acting mayor. I want to start out by pointing out a quote from the IC report. We note that the preamble and the principal section of the Code of Conduct provides as follows. The Council of the Town of Richmond Hill is committed to achieving the highest standards of conduct by its members, which is essential to maintaining and ensuring public trust and confidence in council and Richmond Hill's decision-making and operations. Members will act as in an accountable and responsible manner with integrity and fairness in performance of their duties. Members are expected to perform their duties and arrange their private affairs in the manner that promotes public confidence and which will bear close public scrutiny. It is with this quote in mind that I encourage you, council, particularly regional and local Councillor Pirelli, to ensure public trust and confidence, be accountable and responsible, promote public confidence, accept public scrutiny, and recuse yourself because it is indirectly a matter of pecuniary interest. This is a lawyer's opinion, not mine. So, Mr. Pirelli, you have had a complaint made about your actions in distributing a survey about staff's increase in salary and posting the results on Instagram. That complaint has gone through a process of interviewing the complainant and you. A written report has been made by the Integrity Commissioner, and a decision has been made that the complaint is valid and a reprimand is suggested. It is up to this council to determine the actual penalty. You must be responsible and accept that penalty. That is the only way to retain residents' trust. This type of procedure has happened before. When a complaint was made about your abuse of Karen Silvis in 2019, and the same penalty was suggested. However, Councillor Barrows put forth a motion to only receive the report, so nothing was done. This cannot happen again. A repeat offense, another complaint against you, needs to be approved, not just received. Consequently, I urge council to vote in favor of a penalty to regional and local Councillor Pirelli. The level of that penalty is up to you, but the minimum is a public reprimand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pollock. Okay, council, you got item 13.11 in front of us. I'm putting it out there and bringing this to council. Who wants to start the debate there on what to do with this Integrity Commissioner's report? Councillor Munch, go ahead.
So again, a tough topic to come. And I'm sad that the Integrity Commissioner's office is being utilized in some of the manners that it is. And we've gone through so many and we have no continuity because there's been so much change. I am on the record for saying that when we go into this by-election, that there will have political context during this election period. This is yet another example as to why, when we went down this path, it's dangerous. There are 4 members of council here who are trying to run for the representative of the mayor to represent council. Some people are more representative of council, others have their own way of doing things. That's their choice. I'm going to say to you the fact that this is brought forward during an election period and the member is before that makes this a political context. And because of the political context, shaming somebody who's running in a political context is a form of reprimand, in my view. So the member did not name anybody, did not shame council, did not challenge council as per the Integrity Commissioner's complaint. As such, the severity of the direction or the intent isn't there. I've spoken with others since this report's come up, and I want to just remind those members of council that don't have an advertising or marketing professional background that when you look at ads in the market, you'll often see today television ads or print ads that say at the end in very small print, limited time only, 30 days left, some distributors by availability only, whatever their disclaimers are. I think the Integrity Commissioner's report clearly went overzealous on that effect because he was looking for a clarity before the ad went out. I'm not saying this was an ad. I just use an example of a marketing advertising, which is generally expected by law. And I think law is the lowest common denominator. The member did not break the law and did not break the code as per its standard as I see it. And I think because we're in a political process, that this shaming is a form of reprimand, in my view. As such, I do, however, say that all of us need to respect our council and our governance and the best interest of the people first, beyond your personal, individual idiosyncrasy, preferences, and vision. And that's hard to do in politics because people have a certain level of emotion and vigor. As a member who's not running for mayor and watching the mayor candidates and some of their campaigns, I think it's very interesting because virtually 5 days a week, I get communicated by at least 3 members of council right now. And it's interesting to hear what's going on. I get reports back from the public. And I'm going to say to you that, as I said when we first started this meeting, that my expectation is a high level of public service. And I think that to have a discussion out there for public service is not a bad thing, even though the messaging can be questionable. I don't think the messaging here was too personal, but I do think there was a line crossed. And as such, the report has been generated. I think that report generated in an election period is very, very overwhelming and enough. I think a financial penalty for this type of offense, fine. And I think other members of council, what I'm worried about is this interpretation of how this could happen going forward for other members. I appreciate the report and I look at what's at, and I do recognize the Integrity Commissioner's work, and I'm going to support the Integrity Commissioner where they're at. Hence, I'm willing to receive the report and let as was put up by the delegate who is already showing guilty. I'm going to say to you that I think that's more than enough for this particular member at this time. It's my position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Munch. Anyone else want to weigh in on this topic? So, Councillor Barrows.
I'll second Councillor Munch's motion to receive the report.
Okay.
And without getting too deep into the weeds, in reading the report, the word stretching comes to mind. Reaching. I'm sure that if we were to have taken all of the members of council's communication in their entire time as elected officials, each one of us would be found guilty at one point or another, completely unaware of exactly how the words we've used and laid out in a newsletter or an email or a Facebook could be misconstrued by members of the public. So I'm saddened by the reach and the stretch. I was on council when we first implemented the code of conduct and the Integrity Commissioner's office. It was never meant to be this tool to attack each other. It was a tool for everyday citizens that could not afford to take a member of council to court over a conflict of interest. It gave them a simple tool to be able to call someone out on the table. And it has been taken way far from what it was ever intended to be used as. So I'll second the motion. I'll vote in favor of it, but I'm disappointed by how this whole process over the years, not just speaking to this one, just over the years, how this has played out.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor West.
Okay, so I don't agree with what's been said thus far. I actually think that the Integrity Commissioner report was actually very well written. I think it was fair. I think it wasn't overly harsh. I think going beyond a reprimand would absolutely not be appropriate in this situation. But I think that, you know, we hire an Integrity Commissioner to produce neutral, third party, and well-informed, well-qualified reports. That's what we do. And I would be very satisfied to go with what the reprimand, or sorry, go with what the IC has recommended, no more. But I think that is actually the advice that we have paid for and hired this Integrity Commissioner to do. They've done their job, and I don't see an exceptional reason why I wouldn't vote for something different than what is in this, in my opinion, very well written and comprehensive report. So, you know, this is what we have an Integrity Commissioner for. I mean, I'm not suggesting that the process is perfect. I don't think it is, but it is what we have in front of us. And I think that Mr. Harnick has done the job that he was supposed to do. And I think that he's done the job well. So those would be my comments. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, I don't see other speakers. I too am going to vote against the motion to receive. I certainly I don't think that's the appropriate action. I really disagree with what's been said. I don't think we necessarily need to go any further than to accept the recommendations of the reprimand. But we have a code of conduct for a reason, and we've hired an arm's length neutral third party to assess complaints when members of the public, members of our staff, members of council, anyone feels that the code has been violated. Now, I know this Integrity Commissioner has on multiple occasions turned down complaints and has decided that complaints are frivolous and vexatious, and they don't go further. I can't speak to any other complaints because it's a completely arm's length process. But I've had complaints filed against me, and I take great comfort in knowing that those complaints were turned away as malicious. And I think we as council can have confidence that if complaints are frivolous, they're not going to get to this stage. And it's a lengthy process for the Integrity Commissioner to do their report and their evaluation, and they don't take it lightly. And if they get to the stage of saying, you know, Richmond Hill Council, we suggest that in this case a reprimand is in order, you can be well assured that that's not taken lightly. And if you read the report, you can see that in this case, the 3 sections of our code of conduct were found to be in violation by the actions here. No one on council or staff decides when these matters come forward. These matters come forward strictly at the Integrity Commissioner's completion of their findings. I can't speculate over what other complaints are out there and how long those will take to come forward, or if there are any at all. The integrity commissioner is fully arm's length from council. They don't report back about their caseload. They just come to council when they feel it's warranted. In this case, the report is very clear as to why they're here, and I think it's extremely important. We have to uphold the highest level of scrutiny and honest communications and accountability and transparency in everything we do. We have the public's trust, which is the most important thing. The purpose of the code of conduct is to uphold that public trust, to make sure that if anyone does violate that standard, it stipulated in the code of conduct that they will be reprimanded for doing so. So that assures our public that they're not going to be receiving communications from councillors that are misleading or not factual in any way. Now, I think what's the most important thing is you have the offending councillor, and if you simply have one offending councillor violating a code of conduct, it really doesn't jeopardize the corporation. But when an offending councillor is supported by other councillors in those actions, when actions are endorsed by other members of council to the point where they're able to get away with it on multiple occasions, then that's where we've let down our public, because that's where our public can be susceptible to being fed misinformation, whether it's in communications and newsletters or social media. It is so important that we are communicating with the public in Richmond Hill in an absolutely factual way and in a way that can't be misinterpreted. And I understand Councillor Munch's point that some things qualify as advertising, and it's always slightly misleading, and there's always a fine line and a gray area. But when we communicate with residents of Richmond Hill, it shouldn't be advertising. It shouldn't be misleading in any way. It should be
kind of like you're telling people you've been elected for 17 years, where in fact there's a major gap in your years of service. Kind of like that misleading information, right, Acting Mayor?
Where I claimed that I was first elected in 1997.
No, you didn't say that. You said you've been elected since.
Never said that.
No,
I'd
love
to see that and code of conduct complain about that. Councillor West.
Okay, I mean, I don't even need to say why this is a point of order. I mean, he's speaking out of turn, and that's not the procedure that we follow. It's your turn to speak.
Thanks, Councillor West. Yes, I do have the floor, and any member of council can, of course, debate what I'm saying, but this is extremely important. The actions of this council has been called into question, and unfortunately, the most unfortunate part of it all is that the entire council has been mischaracterized as dysfunctional in spite of the great efforts of our staff, the wonderful initiatives that we have passed, the great work that we have all done together. That the actions of one or more councillors can tarnish the reputation of us all. But if we strictly apply adherence to our code and accept the recommendations of the integrity commissioners when it comes forward, we can mitigate against that harsh criticism of us all. So that's my time up, and I don't see other speakers. Councillor Chan, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm all very mindful of the mover of the motion in terms of the situation we're in. So I'm only going to stick to 3 points. Number one, the integrity commissioner is not, you like it or not, is actually mandated. And in fact, I stand to be corrected, but this particular Richmond Hill Council has had integrity commissioner for a long time. Even this term, we have more than one integrity commissioner. And I think collectively, this council already, by actually retaining this particular integrity commissioner, certainly would have complete faith and trust in the professionalism of this particular ADR chambers that conducted this particular investigation based on a complaint. So I have full faith that this is a truly independent integrity commissioner investigation. And I also noted on page 2, for example, the individual council member being investigated has actually the benefit of accompanied by his counsel. So that's, I think that's also from a process standpoint, the person under investigation also had his legal person with him. So I'm sure any rights of his counsel certainly would speak to it. The second point, I'm concerned about the person actually brought forward the complaint. Quite often we see it from members of public, but this time it's a senior manager of the city. In fact, she's a city manager. And I don't mean, and I don't want to really bring her into the discussion here, but having been here for 15 years, this is the first time, the very first time, a staff, particularly a senior manager, actually brought forward a complaint. So that undermines the seriousness of this alleged complaint until being investigated by the integrity commissioner. And the third point I would say is that our recommendation from the integrity commissioner through professional independent investigation, actually looking at all the allegations one after the other. Some actually they decided is not really meeting the finding of in favor of the complainant, let me that way. So I am in support of adopting the recommendation of this particular integrity commissioner who have gone through very professional, independent investigation, particularly with the person being investigated also had also legal counsel. The only thing that after I say those 3 points, through you, Mr. Chair, I don't know whether it's our solicitor or someone could answer that. What would that mean? Assuming that this motion in front of us received may not be passed, would that mean someone would have to move accepting the recommendation of the integrity commissioner? If so, what does it really mean in a material sense? But I agree with the acting mayor. It's really important we show the public this is a trust on all of us. Thank you. So I still have the question for you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, 1 minute. You have.
I have a question.
Yeah, so the question is to who? Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Chan.
Perhaps it may be to the because city manager is the person being the complainant, maybe to the solicitor or the clerk. So we have the current motion to receive is with the current motion to receive is not adopted by majority, and then a motion to move to say accept the recommendation from the integrity commissioner in terms of reprimand. And what does reprimand really material means?
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. And I apologize. If I've understood the question, so what I'm saying is, so for instance, if the motion on the floor does not fail to carry, because my understanding is the motion is just to receive for information only, it would be open to council to move another motion, as you suggest, including reprimand. It's my understanding, and it was certainly based on practice, a reprimand in this context would be the motion itself. If council would pass a motion saying essentially that the councillor be and is hereby reprimanded in accordance with the municipal act for violating the code of conduct, and that becomes part of the public minute records.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that completes my 3 points and seeking clarification. A motion, should this one not pass in front of us, of receiving another motion of reprimand for the public record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chan. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't planning on speaking, but Councillor Chan brought up a very interesting point. So I had prepared a statement. I wasn't going to read it, but I'll read it now. And the clerk has a copy to be entered into the record that I sent. For those residents who are online watching and are wondering what this item is really all about, I can tell you that it's very simple. This is an attempt to silence me for putting out a survey asking Richmond Hill residents how they felt about top city staff giving other top city staff pay increases without having to come to council for approval. In other words, taking away that delegated authority. Over 4,000 residents responded to my survey and overwhelmingly supported the option asking that this procedure be changed and that the matter be brought back to council for consideration. To their credit, Councillors Barrows, Munch, Liu, and Chan joined me and supported the wishes of our residents. A resident's input is my most valued and welcome source of information. Anyone who thinks that they can silence the voices of Richmond Hill residents by trying to muzzle or embarrass me into submission is sadly mistaken. While bringing issues like this into the open and shining a light on it may make some people uncomfortable, it is the right thing to do. It is what democracy is all about. And therefore, I will continue to advocate on behalf of the residents of Richmond Hill. I will continue to stand up for residents, our frontline staff, and for everyone who feels that they have a right to a say before any decisions are made. While some people believe that these tactics to try and silence me will work, I give residents my commitment that I will continue to advocate on their behalf and that I will continue to make their voice heard at council. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other speakers on the motion to receive, so we'll call the vote. Well, Councillor Barrows.
Wasn't going to say anything further, Mr. Chair, but you kind of called me out. So I thought, you know what? I would. In your own website, it says, Mr. DePaola has been a proud resident of Richmond Hill since 1979. At the age of 80, first moved with his family to Bryson Avenue. He purchased his first home, it says home, I guess it's home, on Northern Heights and later owned property on Hacienda and Pexton. He now lives in Oak Ridges with his family near Richmond Hill. That would lead me to believe that you've never left Richmond Hill. Since 1979,
Point of order.
you have lived in Richmond Hill.
Point of
Thanks,
order.
thanks, Councillor West.
Is it not true before you
got a
moved
point of order?
lived in Barrie, Ontario?
Hold on, Councillor Barrows. We've got a point of order from Councillor West. Councillor
Is it
West.
not true you lived in
I
Barrie,
don't
Ontario
believe
before that?
I don't believe that this is germane to what we're talking about. This has nothing to do with the report in front of us.
Oh, it really does, because the deputy
I
mayor,
agree.
DePaola, was chastising everyone, saying, we need to uphold the values. We need to be the shining light. Look at me. I'm the one that everyone should look to. But yet in his own website, he says he's lived in Richmond Hill since 1979. When isn't it true before you moved to Oak Ridges again, you lived in Barrie, Ontario?
Yes, that is true, but
Okay, then why are you misleading the public in your own website? Point taken. Thank you. I'm not going to make a code of conduct against you. Don't worry. I think that would be.
I encourage you, please, to do so, please. If you feel that.
No, I'm not going to. That's not what it's meant to be. I'm just saying there's a number of examples in your own material where you are blatantly misleading the public. And now you're chastising someone else on council for it. That's hypocrisy.
Wow. Okay, Councillor Barrows, you're accusing me of misleading the public. You have to file a complaint with the commissioner, our integrity commissioner, and allow him to do an investigation. and to see both sides, to hear from all sides, to look at the
I
first.
don't have to. You just
Ev-
admitted it. You just
evidence.
admitted that you did it.
No, I didn't.
That's good enough for me.
Okay.
I'm not going to waste the taxpayers' money on a code of conduct just for political gain. It's a waste of everyone's time and effort. Thank you for being honest, though, with what you're doing in your own website. I appreciate that. That is stand up.
Okay.
May I ask
So-
for a recorded vote, please, Mr. Chair?
What's on the floor and what we're dealing with is the integrity commissioners suggested actions with regards to this complaint. We have a motion to receive the report only, which means in effect to take no action. Councillor Munch, you want to speak as the mover?
Once again, I don't have a political inference like 50% of the members of council might going forward. I ask us if you want to lead council. Here's a great representation, because my fear is that we are now going to be hurting our profession and the city of Richmond Hill if we're already shunning a member of council. Fair enough. If we say, no, we want more, where do you, I'm hoping people can look ahead. I would hate to have a situation where we don't have a path going forward, because I don't want to have partisanship. We're looking for good public policy. Clearly, the member has been brought forward by the Integrity Commission. The report is clear. We all know, and it's recognized. I think that is a form, in my world, of a ramification for an action. But I say this, members of council, if you're trying to go for a home run and you don't get it, and this becomes into a public shaming session after, I'm going to say shame on you all for hurting all of us, the city, everything else. I'm not endorsing what the councillor did, but I'm also going to recognize the report for what it is. I'm recognizing the report for what it should be. We are now, by this communication, by the public forum, are a form of reprimanding. You don't have to knock somebody's knuckles in our society today to show punishment. I think those days are over. I hope, certainly in my world. And I say to you that caution, do what's right for policy, not for partisanship. Far too much emotion. The member made a mistake to a degree. The Integrity Commission made his opinion. We're recognizing that opinion. I think that's reasonable. So that's, I ask you guys and gal to think outside of our emotion, because I'd hate for things to get worse.
Thank you, Councillor Munch. You have a motion on the floor. It's to receive only the recommendation of our Integrity Commissioner. All those in favor.
Mr. Chair, I requested recorded vote.
Recorded vote, okay. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the roll?
Yep. Thank you. Voting on the motion to receive the report only, Councillor Chan.
No.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Crowley.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor West.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Silovitz.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
No.
Thank you. Acting Mayor DePaula.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Barros.
Yes.
Thank you. And that motion fails to carry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. So we do need a motion with regards to this item. Councillor West, do you want to take the chair?
I'll be happy to do so if you'd like.
Okay, well, unless another member of council wants to move a motion here to receive, to take the actions in the staff report, because that's what I want to do. I don't see another member of council stepping forward. Thank you, Councillor West. Okay, so are you
Okay,
recognizing me?
so our regional local councillor DePaula, acting mayor DePaula.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I want to move a
Point of
motion.
order. Point of
to
order.
Of course.
Councillor West.
Point of order.
Yes, regional local councillor Crowley, point of order.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about procedural here. I understand that Councillor Chan should be the one taking the chair. I'm just curious why the chair was not passed to Councillor Chan.
I don't believe that's correct, but I'll pass that over to Mr. Hike. I'm sure he can answer it eloquently.
Please and thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy. Through you, Mr. Acting Chair, under the amended procedure bylaw, the acting mayor role, so the individual who would fill in if the acting mayor DePaula is unable to act, is done on a rotational basis according to a roster. Councillor Chan's position on the roster expired on December 1st. Councillor Silovitz would normally be next on the roster. However, she has previously notified me and the acting mayor that she would be unable to do so in the context of the meeting. So according to the procedure bylaw, it therefore goes to the next person on the roster, which is Councillor West.
Okay, you can continue, regional local councillor DePaula.
Okay, thank you, Councillor West. Now, I'm just shocked and appalled by some of.
If we can just continue before on point of order for a moment, please.
Sure.
Are you calling a point of order, Councillor Munch?
I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Out of a abundance of transparency and full disclosure, I'm really saddened to learn.
Okay, Councillor Munch, can we get
No,
to
no,
the
no,
point of
no.
order?
We need,
I'm not interested in your.
Acting Chair, I would appreciate if you would allow members to speak.
Yes,
Before
so
interfering.
let's have your
No,
point
but
of order.
if you want, having said that as acting chair, if you would like to just tell me what we're going to do and everybody else, then I'll just respectfully say quiet. You tell us how we're going to run it. Once again, let you guys do your what you're doing. Go for it. I'm done. You showed your stripes. Thank you.
Okay, regional local councillor DePaula, please continue.
That was a point of order? Okay.
I don't think it was, but go ahead.
You're not allowed to speak. The chair, you guys are deciding. You don't want open. You don't want open and transparent. You guys want, you don't want it. Go ahead.
Councillor Munch, if you have a point of order, I'd like to hear it, but other than that.
No,
it's
you don't,
Councillor
sir. You
DePaula's
interrupted
turn to
me.
speak.
No, you don't, sir. The public record will show the few times you actually have the opportunity, you dismiss and show disrespect to members of council. I'm not going to beg to be representing this population the way this is going to work. I appreciate your position. Your position is known. I would have liked to have a discussion in good faith for good government. Obviously, I'm different. I like open and transparency. Some don't.
Regional local councillor DePaula.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor West. Thank you for assuming the chair. And to that point, I'm about to move a motion, and then councillors will have 2 opportunities to speak for 5 minutes to the motion if they choose. I don't understand. We just speak in turn. So I don't understand why anyone's casting any implications of any wrongdoing. It's clear from the procedural bylaw that Councillor West is the appropriate person to chair. And in the case where I as chair want to move a motion, I don't blame others, and I don't see any others coming forward to do what I believe is the right thing. And what I want to do is move the motion simply that we follow the recommendations of the Integrity Commissioner, Charles Harnick, former Attorney General for Ontario. Reputable firm has investigated the actions of a councillor based on a complaint that came forward from the city manager for Richmond Hill, RCAO, and has found that he has violated the code of conduct on 3 different counts. Now, members of council, we have levied 245 days of pay suspension to one of our colleagues here, one of the other members of council. 245 days of pay suspension, and all of the ramifications in terms of pension and qualifications for
Point of order.
severance that go along
Point
with
of
that.
order.
Why?
Point of
Why
order
appoint-
from,
why?
point of order, Regional Local Councilor Pirelli.
I think it's inappropriate, Mr. Chairman, for the member to be speaking about somebody else's code of conducts in the past, especially with the member present. I see he's offended the member. She's left the screen. I mean, this is inappropriate, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I would agree. I would ask Regional Councilor DiPaolo to stick to the matter at hand. If you'll excuse me, I have another point of order, Councilor Silovitz.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. My point of order is that I would appreciate it if you informed Councillor Pirelli not to speak for me. My camera was not turned off because Acting Mayor DiPaolo insulted me or offended me in any way. I turned off my camera because I'm permitted to turn off my camera if I so need. Thank you.
Thank you. I would agree with that. So point of order from Councillor Munch.
We need to be very careful, everyone. We're in a code of conduct where people are commenting. To challenge a council decision, whether we like it or don't like it or the ramification, would not be appropriate in my view. And I'm going to say this, let's stay focused. I appreciate some of us may not like or don't like, and you all have an attachment one way or the other, maybe even a personal preference. But focus on where we're at, please. Thank you.
Okay, Acting Mayor DiPaolo.
Can I continue, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll try and get my my opinions out there in between point of order interruptions as quickly as possible. I don't know why that continues. I haven't heard anything other than what Councillor Silovitz said. Her point of order was valid because words were put into her mouth, and in fact, I think she would. I actually asked her if she minded my bringing up the precedent-setting situation with council. So here we are. We are to act as a jury. This is the Ontario process for dealing with code of conduct complaints against councillors. It's something that every council in Ontario deals with and has to, by law, have an integrity commissioner and deal with those reports. The integrity commissioner does the study. The integrity commissioner makes suggestions, and council decides. But what basis should council decide other than to go back and look at prior decisions that have been made? And I'm not out of order in any way just discussing prior decisions. We've had 90-day suspensions levied against a member of this council for inadvertent actions, for merely not complying to a highly technical obligation to give notice of a meeting to councillor in a specified format, and inadvertently and unintentionally crossed a line. Of course, every time I make a point, you have to.
Point of order, Councillor Barros.
I don't understand. You have a turn next.
Councillor Barros.
Thank you. I was just waiting for the speaker to stop speaking. When he references inadvertent or by mistake, I don't recall those reports in front of council saying it was inadvertent and by mistake, and therefore we should just still punish the member. I'm quite sure that the integrity commissioner is wise enough through the investigation, if something was done inadvertently or by complete mistake, to say, okay, look at member, do better next time. But you certainly, it's certainly not that simple that the integrity commissioner is going to go and say, you inadvertently made a mistake and now we're going to punish you.
Point of order.
So again, the deputy mayor is
Point of order.
misleading.
I see
the
that,
public.
Councillor Pirelli. Just we're not
You
quite
can't have
finished.
a point of
Councillor
order
Barros is-
on a point of order. That's in the procedural bylaw. Please let me finish. You knew or ought to have known what the rules are. So the integrity commissioner is not looking for every single member of council when they make a honest mistake. That's
Councillor
completely.
Barros, this is not the time for going into this. You can do that during your time speaking. Your point of order is that you're
Thank you.
concerned about the word inadvertent, I believe. Is that not
Yes,
correct?
I was. I just didn't want Mr. DiPaolo to continue.
Okay, so why don't we move on? Mr. DiPaolo will make sure you're
mislead the
being
public.
precise in your language. Point of order from Regional Local Councillor Pirelli, and then I think we also have one from Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my point of order is that I understand that Acting Mayor DePaula is speaking about an issue, but we have no motion on the floor to speak to. So I would kindly ask, if there's going to be a motion, let's table the motion first before we have a debate on something, because we don't have a motion, nor do we have a seconder to a motion. So this is highly inappropriate.
Councillor Pirelli, I believe at the beginning of his comments, he moved a motion. We're waiting for him to complete his speaking time till we get a seconder. So I think he is totally in line at this moment.
Can we see that motion on the screen, please?
It's the staff recommendation, or sorry, the Integrity Commissioner recommendation, if I heard that correctly.
If that's
Mr.
correct,
Height, could you confirm that, please, for us?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so Councillor Silovitz, you have a point of order.
Thank you. I just want to say this is my point of order. Councillor Barros made a statement about the word inadvertent not being in the reports. The word inadvertent was in all three reports. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I, just before I pass the floor back to Regional Councillor DiPaolo, I would ask that we get through this. There's some cooperation is needed here. Regional Councillor DiPaolo, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor West. Yes, I read those reports thoroughly, and I specifically said it inadvertent because I know that was the founding. The founding was inadvertent. Now we've got. Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry again, Regional Councillor DiPaolo, Councillor Barros, point of order.
Purely procedural. Did you rule on the past orders?
I believe so.
Or did you just leave them out there?
No, they were ruled on.
Oh.
Is this a point of order?
That was my point of order procedurally. I just wanted to make sure.
I have ruled on them, and we're now moving on.
They were all accepted. Thank you.
Regional Councillor DiPaolo.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor West. It is difficult to chair when people are making points of orders merely to interrupt. And you know.
Let's get to the point, Regional Councillor DiPaolo,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
This is my exact point.
Point of order.
Oh, wow. I have.
Councillor
If the member is going to continuously disparage the other members of this council, maybe we should go to the next speaker. Please, Mr. Chair, instruct the speaker to make his points and not attack other members while doing so. Please.
I would agree. Regional Councillor DiPaolo, the floor is yours. Let's proceed accordingly.
I have moved a motion. I have moved the motion that is suggested precisely as it was given to us by the Integrity Commissioner. The Integrity Commissioner has done a thorough report, and he recommended that the Council of City of Richmond Hill reprimand Regional and Local Councillor Pirelli for his actions with this communication on Instagram and other ways that he has distributed information that I believe was intentionally misleading. So I'm saying the reprimand that I'm moving is far less of a penalty than we've levied against another member of this council for something that was described by the Integrity Commissioner as being inadvertent. We have the best opportunity, the best ability we would have to restore decorum and faith and trust in the population of Richmond Hill is to do exactly what the Integrity Commissioner recommends in this case. Now, the act itself by Regional Councillor Pirelli has been decided by the Integrity Commissioner is worthy of a reprimand. But in my opinion,
1 minute.
In my opinion, what's worse and what causes problems is other counselors supporting the behavior, allowing it to happen and not following through with a reprimand when it's suggested.
Order.
No.
Point of order, Councillor Barros.
Again, the speaker did not take your instruction. He again goes after other members of council, saying that there's other members out there supporting this behavior. Can we please just speak to the report that's in front of us and not add the editorial that the member thinks is what everyone is broadly going to believe because he says it? Please, Mr. Chair.
I think what he's referring to, Councillor, is the words that have been spoken in this meeting up to this point. I don't think that I will rule in your favor on that point of order. Acting Mayor DiPaolo.
Thank you. Thank you. I move the motion and I'm using my 5 minutes of speaking time to implore other councillors to support the motion. I'm asking other councillors not to let this councillor skate like he did last time. This is directly to the motion. There's nothing that I'm saying. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm saying let's do exactly what the Integrity Commissioner recommended, and let's, as a council, support that recommendation so that we can prevent this behavior because it's pervasive. We have to prevent the behavior of misleading residents in Richmond Hill. That's what's on the table here for discussion. A violation, and it's not about attacking our staff.
Okay, time is up.
Okay.
Is there any? I need a seconder for this motion at this time. Councillor Chan, would you like to speak?
Thank you. I would only say that I think I said it before when I mentioned the 3 points is that the recommendation from the Integrity Commissioner is exactly what's on the motion. I believe that's all it is. We're not talking about anything else, but for the public record. That's what we're talking about. The recommended action, reprimand the individual. And it also shows, relating to what I said earlier, point number 1, that also show the council's confidence. We did actually select an independent, professional Integrity Commission. I'm not going to make any further comments other than to say all I'm supporting, and I ask my colleagues to consider, is after the professional independent thorough investigation by these competent professional we all trust, because we gave this ADR chambers the contract to do the Integrity Commissioner, that we have to basically, in this case, accept the recommendation. That's what it is. Thank you.
Okay, on the first round, anybody else would like to speak? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, I think we'll call the vote.
Record a vote, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, voting on the motion of Acting Mayor DiPaolo, seconded by Councillor Chan, that regional and local councillor Parley be and hereby reprimanded pursuant to section 22345 of the Municipal Act 2001 for violating the city's code of conduct. Councillor Chan.
If I may, sorry, trying to get through here.
Councillor Munch.
So can I please have a definition of reprimand?
I guess through to you, Mr. Hike, do you have a more fulsome definition other than what's in the dictionary?
Through you, Mr. Actor, I can only speak to the practice in municipal accountability and transparency when it comes to reprimand, and it is understood that a reprimand, one of the penalties for violating the code of conduct is that council can reprimand or impose a suspension of remuneration. It is commonly understood that a reprimand is council just doing that, saying we reprimand you for violating the code of conduct in the form of a motion.
Thank you. Councillor Munch.
Okay. So can I understand what the differences are from when somebody says that I see you're in a violation of a code how is that different than a reprimand?
Through you.
If I might, Mr. Chair, I think I could probably help it. So the best way I can explain it is that under the accountability and transparency provisions of the Municipal Act related to the Integrity Commissioners and Code of Conduct, there is a two-step process, essentially. The Integrity Commissioner is charged with investigating violations of the Code of Conduct and making a finding. Has the Code of Conduct been violated or not? If the Integrity Commissioner makes a finding that the Code of Conduct has been violated, then it falls to council. So part two is council then determines whether it wishes to impose one of the penalties under the Act, which is a reprimand or suspension of the remuneration. So we are here right now because the Integrity Commissioner has completed their statutory obligations under the Municipal Act to conduct an investigation into violations of the Code of Conduct. They have made a finding that says there is a violation of the Code of Conduct, and it is now up to council to determine whether it's going to impose a penalty.
Okay, Councillor Munch.
So my question then is, what is the difference between a reprimand and receiving a report from an Integrity Commissioner that has a statutory requirement to fulfill an investigation that says, I'm finding the situation, I'm finding a guilty plea? So I'm trying to understand. My question is, what is the difference between the two?
Go ahead, Mr. Hyde.
Perhaps I could explain it like this, and I apologize. I'm certainly not a lawyer, but I've watched enough TV. If you think about a matter before the court, sometimes there is a finding of guilt or innocence. That's step one. We've had that occasion here.
So if I may, please, sir. We do not find a guilt of innocence. You're either guilty or not guilty. So please, let's not go.
He's trying to explain it to you, Councillor.
But I don't need. Please,
Okay.
We're at a higher level here. Please, we follow the rule of law. We don't go below that. Thank you.
And I apologize. And point taken. And I will. So I'll phrase it. Okay. The best way I can explain it is under the provisions in the Municipal Act. In the first part of this process, it is the Integrity Commissioner's job to say the Code of Conduct has been violated or has not been violated. So, and this is similar to other proceedings you see. The Integrity Commissioner has now said the Code of Conduct has been violated. So then we go to the step two part of the accountability and transparency provisions, which specifically says that once the Integrity Commissioner has made a finding that a member of council has violated the Code of Conduct, council must determine whether it is going to impose the penalty. So the difference between what you're discussing and if, for lack of a better word, and I think you used it in your earlier statement, is the concept of shame, I believe you used, and I think, and I just didn't want to use your words in this context. That's not something that's contemplated in the legislation. The legislation says the Integrity Commissioner makes a finding, and then council imposes one of the two penalties. And it is a reprimand or suspension of remuneration. So we're just merely, we're at the stage where council has to make that determination. Is it going to impose the reprimand or a suspension of remuneration?
Okay, so I'd like to confirm that then, if we are saying that we are accepting the recommendation of the Integrity Commissioner, who says that he found a violation of the Code of Conduct, and we accept that by receiving it, then we are then saying we are now accepting the findings of the Integrity Commissioner. And what I'm going to respectfully say, that this council now has voted to say that we are not going to receive the report as per was previously voted on. One of the two recommendations by council is that we are going to say we're going to provide a reprimand, which is a form of recognition of a violation of the Code of Conduct. This council just voted against that. So now why are we voting a second time on the same thing we just voted down?
think procedurally, Councillor Munch, Mr. Hike had explained that earlier, that the first motion failed. This is the second motion, which council is procedurally able to do.
Okay, the first motion was we're going to receive, which is a form of reprimand.
No,
The
that's not
clerk-
what
the
that's
clerk-
not
the clerk-
what,
the
uh,
clerk
the
just-
clerk said.
Okay, the clerk just said, as per my language of shaming is a form. If the clerk has said that, why are you as acting chair now making another commentary? If you're saying that shaming is not a form of reprimand, I would like your ruling on that then, please.
Councillor Munch, that's not the question right now. The question is, council has the right and to make a decision on how we want to go forward with this. The first motion failed. They're on to the second motion. That's where we're at right now. Procedurally, according to the clerk, that is the correct place that we're in right now.
So procedurally, if we're voting on the same thing a second time,
We're not voting on the same thing the second time.
I respectfully say we are because.
Well, and that's your opinion, but that's not the
Well, then
procedurally.
I'm
That's
going
not
to,
the
I'm
way I see it.
asking for a ruling from the chair, please. I'm asking if it is your interpretation, so I can get next step. If you're saying that a shaming is not a form of a reprimand.
We're
I'd
not
like to know.
using, the shaming is not coming into this. Those are your words. Procedurally, we are where
And the
we are.
clerks, and the clerks, and the clerks.
That's fine, but procedurally, we are where we are right now. We are now, we have actually called the question. We are about to do a recorded vote. Are you finished?
About recorded vote on what?
The motion that is on the floor right now
But we've
from
already voted, that's
Regional
what I'm saying.
Councillor DiPaolo and seconded by Councillor Chan.
So what I'm saying is that the motion that's in front of us has already been voted on.
It has not. That was not the first motion that's been.
Okay, so can I please see the motion on the screen?
We're going to do that in a moment where we're going to call the question.
Well, in order to
Council-
vote, I'd like to. see
Councillor,
the-
excuse me for a second. Mr. Hike, can you please put the motion that's in front of us on the screen?
So I'm asking for the mover to please define reprimand. Because the clerk said one thing and the chair disagrees. I'm gonna, I don't want to challenge the chair quite yet. I'm giving the mover a chance, please. to
I think
explain
that
what reprimand-
the word reprimand, Councillor Munch, has been defined by the clerk. And it was also, I mean, it is all of our responsibility as councillors to know, to have read the staff report and to have asked any questions up to this point.
With the greatest of respects for the rule of law, there's definitions of language. It's very common in our rule of law to have definitions of language. I don't believe it should be interpretation. I know you'd like to interpret things. I like things to be factually correct. And if I'm going to move on something, I want to make sure that it's not interpreted by a variety of different people on what's being said or voted on. And as you have a different interpretation as the clerk, and the mover may have a different interpretation than you, and I may have a different interpretation, I would like clarification of that, please.
Mr. Hike, can you provide any further insight onto that?
The mover
definition?
should, okay, so I'll ask.
No, it's not. I think the most appropriate person to be dealing with this right now would be the clerk.
But it's not the clerk's motion, it's a member of council's.
The word reprimand is in the municipal act. What it needs to be interpreted as is in the municipal act.
Point of information.
Councillor Barros.
I think what Councillor Munch is trying to get to is, does this motion give Mr. West, Mr. Chan, or Mr. DiPaola the ability in their next advertisement for their mayoralty campaign to shame or to reprimand publicly Deputy Mayor Pirelli? And then they fall back with, we were just doing what the motion said.
The answer to that, Councillor, this is not a part of the discussion right now. This matter is before us.
That's point of
Councillor
information.
Munch.
That's the point of information. Is that what the motion gives you the ability to do?
No, I don't believe that's correct. Councillor Munch. You
Okay, so
still have the
So
floor.
I'm waiting for a definition of reprimanded, please.
So, Mr. Hike, can you provide any further detail on that definition?
I mean, however.
Dear Mr. Acting Chair, Mr. Chair, apologize. I can only state that this motion reflects the provisions of section 22345 of the Municipal Act, which says council can impose one of two penalties, a reprimand or suspension of remuneration. This motion, as I understand it and read it, is simply adhering to the legislation, which says that council is reprimanding a member for violating the code of conduct as detailed in the report. It is, as far as I can tell, and to the best of my knowledge and ability, consistent with the Municipal Act and with practice when it comes to such matters.
Okay,
Thank
so
you, Councillor Munch.
if I may, there's something called a circular argument, which means there's no end. So if the Municipal Act says council has one of two choices, reprimand or financial penalty, and we are reprimanding as what was said, that is the one of the two choices, but yet council does not believe in receiving the report because we just voted not to receive the report. So now we're saying that if we don't want to receive the report, but we want to reprimand, I don't understand what that definition is of reprimand. And I'm asking for clarification on that because the act says council has one of two legislative requirements. And this council has already said that receiving the report is not their preference. So if we're not going to receive the report, then how exactly is the form of reprimand? This is what's in the motion and I don't understand it. And I'm asking, I'm going to say to you, not just interpretation. We actually want, you use the word Webster's. I actually called the Webster's dictionary up on that. I'm not sure, you maybe you have a better English language than I do, and maybe you have more of a legal background than I do, but we are moving laws and direction here. And I think that clarity and confirmation, especially during a election period where the mover and the chair and the person in question are involved in that mix, I think it's very clear that we want to make sure that we, at least from my point of view, that's not in
1 minute.
Want clarification. So please, I'd like to have a definition from the mover because the clerk gave me the definition of the pursuant. And these aren't questions. It shouldn't be time. I'm asking clarification.
Mr. Chair,
So to
happy
you,
to-
I'll allow that, Regional Councillor DePaula, if you can be brief.
Thanks, Councillor West. I will be brief. Council voted against receipt and take no action. And I'm moving that we reprimand as recommended by the Integrity Commissioner. It's the Integrity Commissioner and the whole code of conduct in industry recognizes the reprimand and what it means.
I don't know what it means. I'm asking the mover. What does that mean?
You need to ask the Integrity Commissioner.
No,
before the meeting.
Councillor Munch, the floor at the moment is with Councillor DePaulo as she's answering your question. Go ahead, Councillor DePaulo.
Yeah. So the Integrity Commissioner has used the words reprimand. This is the recommendation of the Integrity Commissioner. He should have been asked before the meeting. And the clerk has done a great job. Mr. Chair, there isn't any ambiguity here. There shouldn't be any problem on part of the councillor in understanding what action council is taking. We voted against taking no action, and I'm proposing this action, hoping for council support.
Thank you. Councillor Munch, your time is getting close to being done.
Can I please have a definition of reprimand? I keep asking. So everyone's going circular. I want a clear definition of what this council is looking to say. What is reprimand? What is council asking for its punitive action as it relates to this report?
Who are you directing that to, Councillor Munch?
The mover.
He's just answered that for you. I don't believe
I
there's
don't
any
see it
more
in writing. So
clarity.
can you put that in writing, please? Because I don't see it in writing.
I'm using the Integrity Commissioner's word. He suggested the reprimand.
And I'd like the mover to please, but our council has decided not to receive the report. So this
That's right.
council has, I voted to receive the
It
report.
says to not, receipt means receive, take no action. That was voted
Again,
down. I say
again,
let's take
that's
the
not-
recommended action.
Receiving, sir, if you Google what receive is, receive can be a verb. A verb is a form of action,
Okay,
not a noun.
Councillor Munch, I think your time's pretty close up. The thing is, these definitions that you're seeking are information that I really think that we all need to have in our understanding before a meeting like this, when we have an item like this on the agenda.
I didn't move the motion. Those that move the motion should be responsible.
But the
for
words that you're
clarification.
asking for definitions on are words that were in the staff report, and we've had plenty of time to understand the actual definition if you wanted the additional clarity. We've spent quite a bit of time here trying to explain and answer your questions. So what I'd like you to wrap up because you're getting close to the end of your time.
I want a definition, a written definition of reprimand, please. How many times I have to ask that question? I want a written definition of reprimand. Given that a council has decided not to receive the report, I would like to know a definition of reprimand.
Okay, your time is up. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? We have called the vote. Okay, seeing none, Mr. Clerk, there was a recorded vote that was called. I just can't remember who called that vote.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair, it was Councillor Chan that called the vote on the motion. So voting on the motion.
So you guys are going to ignore the situation.
Councillor Munch, your time is up.
How can you eliminate, once again, sir, I asked the question 8 times. I'd like a definition. You're not providing the definition. I'm hearing conjecture. You told me it's active in the Webster's. I don't know what the verb is here. You don't have a definition.
Councillor Munch.
Okay, so we're not going to provide. We're just going to do this.
Mr. Hike.
Thank you. Voting on the motion, Councillor Chan.
Well, it's actually the second time my name is being called, but answer is still yes.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor West.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Silovitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Acting Mayor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Barrows.
Oh.
Thank you. Regional and local Councillor Pirelli is absent. Councillor Munch.
No, because you guys won't provide a
Thank
definition.
you. Thank you. The motion does carry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. I will pass the chair at this time back to you, Acting Mayor DePaula.
Thank you, Councillor West. Okay, we have 4 more delegations. The next 4 delegations all deal with our key directions for our official plan update. This is a very, very important part of our official plan update process. We are going to be endorsing some key directions, or our staff are recommending the endorsement of some key directions for our official plan. And here to speak to council with regards to this, I'm sorry, our 5 delegations. The first is Mr. Harry Harak from 66 Major Mackenzie Drive West. Are you with us, Mr. Harak? Oh, you have to accept the invitation to be a panelist.
Yep, he's joining now.
Okay, I see you joining there now. There you are, Mr. Harak. Okay, you have up to 5 minutes to direct council.
Before I start, I'd like to say it's been tiresome since 9:30 this morning. And I'm now at 2:44. And your process is really difficult to follow. My trend of thoughts is pretty well dissipated. However, I'm going to have to go ahead and address the subject for which I asked to speak. So thank you. And also I have some slides. Can I have knowledge of those slides would be available?
Yes, yeah. Mr. Harak.
Thank you.
We do have some slides coming up on the screen. Is that what you hope to have on there?
That's correct.
Okay.
So then is the order movable or do I have to go sequentially? I'll go sequentially. What I see there allows me to just go sequentially. So rather than speaking first, I'll go through the 20 slides and speak what they are, and then come back and put them in words a bit later. So this is the second slide, and I can actually, sorry, slide 1. This is a map taken from the downtown official plan, something or the other in the sideways, so it's an official map. It shows the uptown, village district, and civic district. The purpose of this map is to pinpoint our primary location, my primary home address, and that of my 8 neighbors. You see, we have 8 neighbors in here that owns a total of about 5.5 acres of developable land at the intersection of Yonge and Major Mackenzie. Whilst in that topic, I just participated with you, and somewhere or the other, it was asked if Major Mackenzie is going to be a regional corridor. And I wouldn't mind using that to my advantage here. In page 44 of the document that we're examining, that is the staff report 21.118. It has as a header, key direction report. And it says in the 3rd column, York minimum per MTSA. And I find somewhere down to the bottom, local mixed-use corridor, Major Mackenzie Drive, generally from Arnold to Bayview. And has NA in terms of what's the number of homes per hectare, or I don't quite know what that means, but seeing NA bothers me because not only this did not recognize Major Mackenzie as a regional corridor, because it will go from Bayview all the way to Jane. So that, if it's an error, probably needs to be fixed. If it's an oversight, again, to be fixed. If it's a matter of not getting the gist or the substance, I would love to speak to it and understand why is it difficult for this major rewrite of our official plan not to accept the fact that Major Mackenzie and Yonge is on 2 corridors, the Yonge Street corridor, of course, and the emerging Major Mackenzie corridor, and therefore the MTSA should be at the very least 160 in there as per BRT 40 or MTSA 40, which is bus stop 40 along Hotchkiss and something up there at Yonge, just south of it. So I can go to the next slide then. The next slide shows the whole village district west of Yonge Street. I'm going to come around to pointing out the percentage of land that exists from Arnold Street south to Major Mackenzie. So Elizabeth Street is the one that indents a little bit. So from Yonge Street west, we go to Wright Street over, I think it's Hall Street, back to Elizabeth, back to a boundary. The one that come down the side is a boundary. In that staff report that we're looking at, it has the word Elizabeth written where that boundary line is on the bottom left-hand corner. Now, my home in relation to all of this is where that Buxton area is at the top of that intersection of Elizabeth and Arnold, and it comes all the way down. So it means that in that little block, we have 30% of the total land in the village district. From Arnold to Major Mackenzie is 30% of Arnold to Wright Street. So we are not an insignificant amount of land holding. Secondly,
you're certainly not insignificant, but Mr. Harak, your 5 minutes has expired. But Pamela is also scheduled to speak for 5 minutes. So you can definitely continue, both you and Pamela, you have another 5 minutes.
So please,
but
okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have to pass the chair right now to Councillor West again, if Councillor West agrees. And after the Haraks, you can ask the clerk for the next delegates. We have 5 delegates, but I'm going to be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor West.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Mr. Harak and Pamela.
Let's go down the slide. Let's probably a bit faster so I can. All right. The next one, please. That was established the percentages, which I've already just given to you. Next one, please. I'd like to read this, please. This is from Mike Mane, July 9, 2020. I might not have time to read it, but in here, we go to the city, to Simone Fiore, and we said that we are a major landowner in this block. The town owns the rest. Let's get together and do a concept plan that is beautiful in design and land usage and all that other thing. It says, since the downtown secondary plan has been of 2 FSI, please read it for me. What I wanted to say here, the town has declined our request to work with them as landowner to develop this part of the land. I become distressed when I read page 60 and 69 and 70 of the staff report that this area is going to be relegated in terms of density. The heights are going to be probably, they're complaining that 2 FSI and 1 FSI is too intense. So we'll have to address that. Go down again, please. Next one, please. That's the number of trees that were north of me here. It's up to 403 trees were cut down in our wood lot immediately north of me. So our community was distinctly different and separate from Arnold Street and Elizabeth total even before. Go ahead, please. Please fast forward. Next slide. Next. That's what I was referring to just now. Page 60. Next, please. This circle here, where they want the density to be next to nothing. Next. I'm going to make some serious point. Planning, we have a planner on record. Next. This one. This is the only traffic study that was submitted by Laurier Homes to justify an extension of Elizabeth Street. It was when they were doing 40 homes and they were doing a turnaround right back on a private owner. That since has been superseded by a secondary plan with a couple of red dots that has since been repealed. However, it still appears as a functional document for the purpose of this strategic plan planning. Go ahead, please. Next. This little square, the little area in the middle was a turnaround that was originally proposed by Arnold Street. Next, please. Next, please. Bookend. That originally land study report says that in this area, we're going to have a bookend. On the north end, a higher density. On the south end, a higher density. That totally has been eliminated in the strategic reports. Next, please. This is where my house is in relation to turnaround. The yellow is where I am. So right now, you were hearing grumbling outside. There's construction going on there. So this is a separate and independent thing, even from the beginning. Right now, a road is there, but it's because the next place has received site plan and building permit, that road should stop right there right now. Next, please. Next. Was servicing, this is what our area looked like. It's on the wrong side. I suppose I can't turn it. The house on the bottom is a user's home that was demolished. So right now, thank you very much. That is a laneway that we are driving in and have been for 40, 50, 60 years. Right now, that house has been demolished. That creates the infill, and as a result, that became an infill. The other 5 houses, like, no, we don't want to be here. So the entire blockage is for sale. Entire. So it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for someone to buy 5 acres of land, every single one demolished and have a clean slate. Next, please. That's what it looks right now with that house removed. And by the way, whilst I'm speaking to it, we do not have snow clearing at all. And we're going to be right now in morbid fear of ourselves because those people are not contributing their share of the snow cleaning. Next, please. Downtown, that's the one that was removed. Go ahead, canceled or revoked. Next, please. Next. This little area here, down where there's a little X here with the extension of Elizabeth Street. That I can't read it right in there.
Okay, Harry, I think your time is up, but if you could just quickly wrap up, that would be great.
What I want to say is when I ask some question of representative, I get the feeling that I might not like the answers. Because the questions, and I'm now beginning to see, what heights are permitted in my property? This staff report is saying almost none, probably less than 3. What's the density? It seems to be has the minus, not 1 FSI, but it's like -1. Because
Okay.
it does appear.
Harry, I'm sorry. I'm going to need you to wrap up fairly quickly. You are now over your time. Can you wrap up within the next little short bit of time?
I would wish the opportunity for someone at council to ask the planning department to respond to my letter of July 2020 and join with us in developing this proposal so it becomes a really beautiful, workable thing, and that regional road, Major Mackenzie, be recognized as a regional corridor, not a local. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Harry, and I'm sorry about the delay in
That's
getting
all
to
right.
you. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, I think we have, Mr. Clerk, if you can help me, but I think we have Lauren Capolongo from Malone Givens Parsons representing Parkway Hotels and Convention Center. Is that correct? Next.
That is correct. That's correct,
Okay,
Mr.
I
Chair.
see Ms. Capolongo is on the screen. Go ahead. You've got 5 minutes, and the clerk will warn you when there's 1 minute remaining.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Lauren Capolongo, and I'm a land use planner and principal with the firm Malone Given Parsons. And I'm here today on behalf of Sheridan Parkway Hotels and Convention Centers to speak to you about the Key Directions report. As most of you know, Sheridan Parkway has a long-term vision for the lands to redevelop their quadrant into and see an expansion of the hotel and convention center space to create one of the largest convention centers in York Region. And to help support the financing of that new hotel and convention center space, they're looking to add new additional high-rise residential dwellings, commercial and office space as well. They're currently working to refine its concept plan. However, its vision to date includes building heights of upwards of 35 stories and an overall site density of 6 times floor space index. Now, the Key Directions report that's before council for endorsement today proposes to identify the Sheridan Parkway Hotel and the East Beaver Creek area as a new local center in the city's intensification hierarchy. Excuse me. Our preference is to have this area elevated to a key development area rather than a local center, as the heights and densities that Sheridan is envisioning are typically those heights and densities that are directed to key development areas. The Key Direction report is intended to set the framework to update the city's urban structure in its official plan and direct intensification to key areas. The city's current framework places a greater emphasis on achieving more height and densities in KDAs over local centers. And if the lands are identified as a local center, we're concerned that this could preclude the planned building heights and density that Sheridan envisions. We did meet with policy staff to discuss the Key Direction report and a request to move from a local center to a key development area. Staff did let us know that by identifying Sheridan as a local center, it wasn't intended to mean that the planned heights and densities would be less than a KDA. And while we respect and understand staff's intent, it's a little bit difficult to wrap our minds around this, given that the city's existing intensification framework prescribes greater heights and densities in KDAs and local centers, especially when that shift in thinking doesn't seem to come through clearly in the Key Directions report, when it continues to emphasize that it's maintaining the 2010 urban structure in the city's official plan. We firmly believe that this area is a prime candidate to be identified as a new key development area in the intensification framework. The Sheridan and the East Beaver Creek area meets all the criteria for a KDA described in the Key Directions report, which include having a regional draw as a destination, having large swaths of land that occupy low intensity commercial uses and surface parking lots, and areas that are well served by bus rapid transit. The Sheridan and the East Beaver Creek area undoubtedly meet all of these criteria. The area has the Sheridan Hotel and Convention Center and the restaurant campus. That's a destination drawing people from all over York Region and beyond. The area is comprised of single ownership parcels with existing low scale commercial and parking lots that provide significant opportunity for redevelopment. And specifically, the Sheridan lands are over 7.6 hectares in size. There's also 2 existing BRT rapid transit stops along the Highway 7 frontage, directly in front of the Sheridan Hotel, and the lands are within 2 planned MTSAs that have a minimum planned density target of 400 people and jobs per hectare. So before you this afternoon to request that council consider identifying the Sheridan and the East Beaver Creek area as a new key development area as part of the key directions report rather than a local center. Alternatively, should the land be left as a local center, we're requesting clarification that the local center will not include the building heights and densities that are planned by Sheridan. So I thank you for your time this afternoon, and I would be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Ms. Capilongo. The next person I think that's on our agenda is Mr. Wilhelm Blake about the key development, or sorry, key directions report. Is Mr. Blake with us?
Mr. Chair, if I might, it's actually Mr. David Lancaster is the next.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lancaster, I see you there. Go ahead. You've got 5 minutes and the clerk will give you a 1 minute warning.
Thanks very much. So my name is David Lancaster and I'm here. I've spoken before on this topic, so thanks again. There's a group of us, as Harry mentioned, lots, property 32, 42, 66, 74, and 76 Major Mac West. And Harry broke down. We refer to ourselves as the neighborhood group. We had Alan Ramsey of Ramsey Planning put together a letter that you received Monday night, Tuesday morning. He's unable to be here, so I'll just provide some brief comment on that. I believe you've all seen it. And then I'll provide my own quick observations. So if you could return to the Ramsey Planning letter for point 2, we'll go skip to there. Key policy objective of the MTSA therefore involves the achievement of a minimum density target. But we as a group believe it's equally important to establish objectives that encourage and support higher density than the minimum density standards. So we're wondering what that was about. Some general observations around ambiguity and vagueness came up as points 4, 5, and 6 tend to deal with that. But we talk about MSTA should have clear and precise boundaries as land use designation. Ambiguity with these boundaries undoubtedly lead to disputes and other issues. Continues with, we appreciate to understand refinement of boundaries, determination of heights, densities to determine what opportunities be provided for public and landowner engagement. And the last one under that topic is a report should clarify how density is defined. There's a vagueness with that and how it will be applied. So understanding the minimum density target is to be achieved over the entirety of the area, not a development block basis. Continue on to point 7, the second half. The report talks about historical character, applying urban design principles, exploring opportunities for widening sidewalks and so on. But in our opinion, these key directions do not address the important issues of how they apply in intensity and density. And references terms like complementary and contextuality, sensitive and human scale podiums and building heights, we feel misrepresent the importance that the province and region place in the development of MTSAs. We go to point 9, a vision statement, a village within the city that is vibrant, walkable, and green, and that provides opportunities for entertainment access to city history. In our opinion, this vision statement should also address how new, more intense forms of development will harmoniously be integrated into that. So it's really important. That's just a general observation that there needs to be more specific details and there needs to be some adjustments of what intense development would look like under these circumstances to make it viable. Major Mac and Young, where this is located, is the top 10 traffic accident issues per year in York Region, and acceptance that public transport will be negatively affected without levels of intensification and a better understanding of that is really important. Some of my own views, this struck me as having a status quo element to it, just the way it read, particularly pertaining to our area. Minimum density applies what are important. How do you make up for the cemetery? The lowballing, that was a term that our group expressed early on, and we felt that these numbers were being lowballed to, we're not for what reason why, but that's what we feel. But we do understand it takes 3, 4, or 5 times FSI to get to minimum thresholds when you have to accommodate for cemeteries and so on. So we'd really ask that some of these issues be referred back to council. The David Dixon factor, my wife and I made significant efforts to hear his presentations and discussions and with other people this last year. Sorry about that. And my first sense of reading it was that the whole ambiance, the whole energy vision of Dixon is not included in what's going on there. So why did we bring him in if we're not going to apply some of that? On our trip home, my wife and I were out of the country for the first time in 2 years. And we were on our travel back. I noticed the editorial board for the Globe and Mail wrote an article December 1. And it goes something like this, and maybe this isn't fair, but this Canadian city just did the unexpected of voting against sprawl. And I thought that may apply in this situation. There seems to be, I heard some of the discussions this morning. It seems to be a hot potato to talk about intensity and accept that. Thanks for the warning. And the last thing, all I want to say is, if you want the small town feel, you're going to have to get rid of the traffic and the sprawl. To get rid of the traffic and the sprawl, you need proper intensive diversification. And I think David Dixon, when I heard him speak this summer, he really brought it home. So we really have choices to make. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. And I see Acting Mayor
Lancaster.
DiPaolo is back. I'll pass the chair back over to you.
Thank you, Councillor West. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Lancaster, for your comments there.
I had to replay the tape in my head. Sorry, Mr. Lancaster.
We're all thinking about David Dixon and his recommendations as we go through this. So the next and final speaker on this issue is Wilhelm Bleak from 136 Center Street West. And I'm being told that Mr. Bleak is not available today to address us. So we're gonna move this very exciting report back to council. Very extensive and a lot of great work. We didn't have a presentation from our staff here. You normally would on a report this lengthy, and this is just incredible work. Thanks has to go out to all the people engaged in this Vision 2021. We're talking about our key directions. So when council is going to be endorsing key directions, or that's the recommendation, is to endorse the key directions in the continued process for our official plan update. And this is some great work. It's so comprehensive. It covers every single aspect of our planning going forward with these key directions. Climate change is an important aspect of it, environmental considerations, every possible planning consideration. But I really want to thank all those that put all the time and hard work into this document. And definitely our appreciation from council is owed to the people doing this work, but the public consultation process. This is a document that came about from our residents. We went out and we asked the questions. When we asked what you would like this city to look like in our Vision 2041 going forward in the next 20 years, we asked our residents what their vision would be, and now their great ideas have all come forward and are accumulated here in this great document. So does any member of council want to move this or speak to this? Councillor Munch, go ahead.
Point taken, as you heard by the delegate, Mr. Dixon, aka Mr. Lancaster. I'm going to say that, and given the other things that are going around our discussion, given the fact that we are in a by-election, we are a member of council short, given that this is a very important context, I am going to ask for a referral back to the February meeting of this report. The report as a whole requires we're having an election, which is in part, there are people that are running for election that are speaking to the vision of this city. And that vision should have given that person an opportunity to execute at least part of their mandate, should that vision want to come forward. If we want to have a municipality that is following the growth plan or not following the growth plan, is following where consultation, what have you. Clearly, there's also been some discussion of late where there has not been enough discussion, and that was brought forward today by Mr. Dixon / aka Mr. Lancaster and others, to say that the vision that he brought forward to members of the community are not perhaps totally in sync with others, and further dialogue has to happen. For these reasons, I think it'd be pretty prudent for council to say that if we have a new member of council coming forward, they should have an opportunity to bring that forward. Should an existing member of council decide to want to lead council or actually demonstrate their will to be part of council, not arbitrary, they should have that opportunity. So I'm going to ask that we refer this back to February after the mayor election. the approval of this report because I think beforehand it's premature. I think it also gives an opportunity for some discussion to evolve, which is a good thing. And I don't think that a month is going to be or one council meeting is going to be a lot. So I'd like to hear back from members of council. I'd like to move a referral motion back to February to further dialogue and feedback from the community, to allow the electoral race to play out, and to allow us to move forwards in a wholesome way as a full member of council, hopefully.
Okay, I'm not opposed to that, Councillor. Continued dialogue may be good. But I think you're looking for a deferral to our next meeting. Is that?
Well, again, I asked, well, maybe a clarification.
So, Mr. Clerk?
A deferral means only a point in time. A referral actually allows for dialogue and communication. I actually do want a dialogue and communication to allow the public, to allow other members of council and the mayor race to bring this to the forefront.
So you're referring it to staff, not deferring it to the next council meeting?
Yeah, so, I'll leave it with you, the clerk. I definitely want a dialogue, not simply a transference. I want to have the opportunity where there can be a dialogue with the members of the public and with members of council and of staff. Obviously, if they want to chime in, they're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, were you going to weigh in there?
No, I'm fine. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I now understand what the councillors have requested.
Okay,
Yeah.
so referral then, back to staff for more dialogue. Councillor Chan had his card up first, then Councillor West. Are you going to second this, Councillor Chan?
Yes. In fact, before I was thinking about that, if you allow me, Mr. Chair, to through you pass a question to our staff. Should this referral motion to the first meeting in February, would that be in any way, particular thinking about time-wise, would basically creating challenges on the staff initial project schedule? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I guess, Commissioner Kwan, you're still with us there, you are? Okay. Will we be adversely impacted by a deferral or referral here? Commissioner
Point of order
Kwan?
for me. Point of order for me.
Oh, okay. 1 second, Commissioner. Point of order, Councillor Munch?
So requires a seconder for a referral. And I'm not sure if this person, if our member of council, Galvin Chan, is seconding it, asking, or is he going forward?
He has said he will second the referral motion.
Okay, so he's
Clerk's going to put it on the screen.
Okay, so he's seconding and then he's asking for a question. Okay.
Yeah, because I want to understand the ramification of the referral motion
Well,
from
sir,
staff perspective.
If I may, my motion is a direction by council to staff. It is not looking for staff approval of council. It's a totally different, there's another visionary approach I believe that council should lead. I'm not sure why the seconder is looking for staff to lead us, but it's up, if that's the way he has his mayor campaign that he wants.
It's not asking for leadership, if I may jump in here, but I think that if there is a ramification impact on staff, we should be known now.
No harm in consulting our professional staff. Commissioner Kwan?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Perhaps I can answer the question this way. We are following on the heels of the region's recent release of their draft official plan. The scheduling for the work that Richmond Hill is doing has been in lockstep with those programs. We have identified on several occasions the schedule for release of the various amendments to our own official plan, which would go forward on an incremental basis, and some of those amendments would have been scheduled for full consideration before the summer recess of 22. However, having said that too, the other piece of information I guess that you should be aware of is once the region adopts their official plan, and then it's down to the minister, municipal affairs for approval, the local municipalities have 1 year to bring our plan into conformity with that plan. So there's a number of things in play here. We're trying to move in lockstep, as I say, with the region. But certainly, if this is the will of council, then we will do our best to make up the time at the other end.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to refer this, moved by Councillor Munch, seconded by Councillor Chan. Sorry, Councillor West, you did have your hand up to speak. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to seek a bit further clarification. I actually don't have a problem with this being discussed, debated, and then passed today. I think that's actually, going into this meeting, I figured that was probably the wisest course of action. If it's the will of council to have this delayed for, good, I suppose, some good reasons, I suppose, but I'm a little bit unsure as to what I just heard from Commissioner Kwan. So I realize that this whole process from the very beginning has been very well laid out by staff. And I mean, having a pandemic right in the middle of it certainly isn't going to make it easier. I think staff's done yeoman's work to make sure that we're continuing the public part of the process and so on, and that's great. But am I hearing from you then that there is no risk to us delaying this essentially for 2 months? Now, it isn't really 2 months because the Christmas holidays is in there and so on, but there's no risk to us to have this delay. Like what's the where the rubber meets the road impact of us not dealing with this today as opposed to dealing with it in February? I just want to be clear on that, because if we're going to cause a problem later down the road, I don't think it's worth it to delay it. But if it's all fine, then okay.
Commissioner?
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, the intention of my comments was not to imply that a delay is fatal necessarily. However, I think similar to a previous file that was discussed by council today, we would like to move forward. It's staff's firm belief that we would like to move forward and have the ongoing discussions based upon some of the comments that we've received from delegates today, as well as other things that we've heard. And it will enable us to advance the plan forward. No decisions are being made directly today on the form of the plan, but it gives staff the opportunity to move in a particular direction. And then we can certainly report those things out going forward. But ongoing work needs to be done, not only directly on the OP, but all the related supporting studies, whether it be the transportation plan, the parks plan, our ongoing affordable housing strategy. So it would be entirely appropriate to continue to move forward, in my opinion. But as I say, there's no firm decisions being made, but there's a direction that we're going. And that's based upon what we've heard, the comments and advice that we've received from Mr. Dixon in the past, the previous consultation sessions that we've had in each ward, and the reports that we've brought forward on a periodic basis with updates to the steering committee.
Councillor Munch, you have a point of order?
I'd like to have clarification from the chair. So I just heard 6 times the commissioner. I wrote it down 6 times. So I'd like to get some clarification here, please.
Well,
I heard the commissioner say, our schedule, what our direction is, our staff want to move forwards. Is it the position of you, Chair, and the members of this council that we take direction from staff, or that staff take direction from the leadership of the province, the region, and this council? I would like to have a ruling.
Councillor Munch, you'll have a time to answer questions.
But he's reporting, hold on, he's answering a question saying, and I've already heard the seconder, and now I'm hearing another mayor candidate.
You're not,
Councillor
Munch,
clarification.
You're not at liberty to just jump in here. Councillor West has asked a question of our commissioner is answering Councillor West's question. That's what he's doing.
But I'm asking, this is a procedural question. So is it that council is approving what staff are directing, or is it that staff are following what council?
Council is making decisions. We're voting on your motion.
Okay, that's not what the commissioner said.
And we're getting advice from our staff. That's how we do things. Councillor West.
Happy to hear advice, but what he said is not that, sir. What he said was, again, we'll watch the tape and I will once again do a transcript.
You're out of order. You're out of order interrupting this process. You can bring this up when it's your turn to speak.
Absolutely.
You've got 5 minutes to speak and you can bring it up if you have a problem with it. Councillor West, continue with your question. And I think, Commissioner, you were still answering. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, thank you. I have nothing else to add at this point unless Councillor West has a follow-up question.
Okay,
Okay,
no,
Councillor West?
thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so here's the thing. I do understand time is important here. And, there were some points that were made today in the delegations from Mr. Harak and from Mr. Lancaster. And those, they were good points. And I mean, I'm aware of some of the things that they're talking about, particularly because it's actually in the ward that I represent. So there's that, and then there's a whole bunch of other specific issues that we have to deal with in an official plan. That's natural and normal for us to be presented with that situation right now. What I figured would happen today is that this would pass and that staff would continue to do their work with the comments that were made today, perhaps reaching out for clarification when necessary and so on, but the train could continue moving down the tracks. I mean, one of the things that is important, is to not hold up the process. I mean, we don't want to rush it through, but we also don't want to do it in a way that is delaying. What I still worry about, and I appreciate the clarity from Commissioner Kwan, but what I still worry about is that there are some obstacles that are going to be in the way to us approving this official plan, including the 2022 municipal election. And I know that the timeline that we have to deal with right now, I mean, I'm quite aware of it in all the presentations that I've heard in the official plan process, that the timeline is pretty tight. It's doable and it's all fine, but it's tight. Delaying it a couple of months for this, I'm not sure that it really adds a lot of value, because the conversations that need to happen based on the comments that were made today in the delegations and other comments that maybe were not specifically made today, but we're aware of as local councillors and regional councillors, all of those conversations need to happen, but not passing this today, like the key directions report isn't a thing that's written in stone. It's the next step moving forward to a more solidified vision of what the official plan will end up being. And don't get me wrong, I can't talk about them right now because we're in a deferral, but I have a bunch of things that I'm not overly thrilled with in the key directions report, and I have spoken to staff about them and they've actually given me some answers. But I think this delay, I say this with all due respect, I don't think that the delay adds the value that the delay would cause. So I'm not sure that I'm going to be in favor of it when the time comes. I think it's best if we, if there's really serious problems with this key directions report, we need to talk about it. But other than that, I think we need to move to the next point.
Okay, thanks, Councillor West. Anyone else? Councillor Munch on the second round? As the mover?
You bet. Okay, Commissioner, through you to the Commissioner Kwan. Is the official plan have a deadline as to when we are supposed to have it approved? A hard deadline from the province or the region, yes or no?
Commissioner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the official plans ought to be reviewed under the Act every 5 years. The region is conducting their official plan update. And then we have a mandate, as I mentioned earlier, to bring our plan into conformity within 1 year of the approval of that plan. So the timelines for us to complete our work are really geared towards the back end. And we need to move very quickly under those circumstances and pivot as necessary. So in order to do that, it's my strong advice that we prepare as best we can up front to get our house in order and get the directions solidified and provide a framework for continued analysis in the future, depending upon whatever changes happen at the region in their approval process.
And through you, Chair, to the Commissioner, who determined that timeline of 1 year?
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, the province of Ontario.
So the province of Ontario directed the others. And the province of Ontario, and is it your opinion, sir, that the province of Ontario is correct that they feel that after approval of a regional plan, that municipalities should be able to finish it within a year? Or do you disagree with that province?
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, I don't want to be evasive, but that it's not up to us. That is the rule of law.
I'm sorry, let me rephrase the question. If the province says 1 year after the region, that provinces that are under a region are to fulfill their obligation, my question to you is, do you agree or disagree with that? I didn't ask you what the rule of law is. I'll leave that to legal. I'm asking you as a planning person who's a strategic thinker, what your position is on that.
Again, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. That's the legislative framework that the municipality is required to work within.
Are you able to work within that time frame, sir?
Certainly have our obligation to do it to the best of our ability.
So if somebody says to you at council or anybody else that we have a framework of 1 year after the region approves it, you are ready, willing, and able and capable of fulfilling that obligation?
That is our responsibility to do things to the best of our ability, sir.
Beyond the responsibility, are you ready, willing, and able to execute that?
I can't, unfortunately, I cannot make predictions on what events may happen in the future, which may influence the work that we need to do.
So you're saying that there's a possibility that this municipality, should the region pass its official plan, that we would not be in a position under your leadership to fulfill its mandate within 1 year? I reset before you answer, I want to say it again, because you just said it. I'm just reiterating what you just said. If the region passes official plan within a year, is there any way, shape, or form that this municipality under your leadership is unable to fulfill its obligation of the province to meet its official plan requirements? You just said it may not be possible. I just want to clarify, those are your words.
Well, I think he said he can't predict the future.
Right,
Councillor Munch.
the reality is, sir, through the chair, the reality is that the region's going through an official
I think-
plan.
I
Sir,
think our planning
the
staff,
region's going to pass an official plan. Do you
Yes,
disagree with that?
the region will, and our staff will make best efforts to get a proposed official plan in front of council. And I think Commissioner's just saying he can't predetermine what council will or won't do.
I didn't ask the council. I'm asking a staff question. I'm not
Okay.
asking, I didn't ask, I'm asking the commissioner a staff question from his role as commissioner of planning. I'm not asking the commissioner as the acting mayor. I'm asking the commissioner specifically as it relates to staff for planning matters under his jurisdiction, based upon the words that he said, that it's a rule of law. He said that. I agree with him. Now I'm saying that he said he has a responsibility. I agree with that. He said that. My question is, beyond the responsibility and beyond the rule of law and beyond council, my question is, Mr. Commissioner, are you in a position, are you and your staff ready, willing, and able, when the region passes its official plan, to meet our statutory responsible requirement within a year to bring something forward to members of council? You initially said you're not sure you could do that, and the acting mayor just said he's not sure as well. I'm asking you now.
I didn't say that.
You did, sir. Watch the tape. You're going to watch the tape later on. It's exactly what you said. So
And I'm not aware if it's going to come forward or not.
I would like to know from the commissioner of planning, because he's saying that he may not have the time capacity to fulfill the obligation, responsibility that we need to have done. And I'm surprised that the commissioner of planning is saying to everybody that he can't fulfill the responsible legal
But
requirement.
Councillor Munch, you're putting words in his mouth. The only thing he said is he can't predict the future.
When the
Okay.
region passes its plan, sir, when the region passes its plan, we have a responsibility legislative requirement within 1 year to fulfill our role. That's not interpretation. That is the fact.
Right. And
So if that's right, then he's saying that when it's not an assumption. The region is going through its official plan. The region is going to pass. its
1
official
minute
plan.
remaining. Yeah. Okay.
I can't believe that you guys are debating whether we can fulfill an obligation requirement within 1 year of an official
We
plan.
can and we will. The commissioner will put in front of us a proposed official plan.
He didn't say that. He didn't say that. What he specifically said was, I'm not sure I can do that. And then I went back to him to say, are you ready, willing, and able with our
He
staff? Are
can't
we
predict
capable of doing
what
it?
council's gonna do. If council
That's
refers
not
this
his
to
role. That-
February
again-
and then we don't even get our key directions passed in.
I
9
just
months from
want a
now.
report. I'd like to know if staff are in a position to provide to council a report within 1 year. I'm not asking to fulfill what council's going to do or not do. I'm asking what staff are going to do to present to council.
they're going to do everything that they can to fulfill our obligations under the Planning Act to have within 1 year of the passing of the regional official plan, a proposed official plan for Richmond Hill. And it's up to
Says who?
council.
Says you or says the commissioner? Because that's not what the
to
commissioner
pass
said.
it.
That's not what the commissioner said. That's not what the commissioner said.
Your time's up, Councillor Munch.
How
That
can
is-
you take
that
my
is the way
time
it
when you're
is.
interfering with me?
Okay, you now have 3 minutes if you want to wrap up, according to our procedural bylaw.
I am shocked to
You
hear.
spoke for 5 minutes twice. You have 3 minutes to wrap up.
Fair enough. I am
It's your
shocked to
motion.
hear. I am shocked to
Refer.
hear. I'm
For more
not.
dialogue.
Let me know when I can speak my 3 minutes, and then you let me know when I can
Okay.
speak.
Okay, so Councillor Munch, I do see Councillor Chan wants to speak, and then you got the last say. You got the last 3 minutes. Councillor
Happy
Chan.
to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I listened to Councillor Munch when he was making a motion, which the points that I agree upon, such as that subject to the public's will, or the voters' will, we will have a new mayor. And it could be any one of us currently on council, or it could be someone not currently on council. So it's on that basis, I can understand where Councillor Munch is coming from. I think that give the new person in charge as the head of council, the head of the also setting a direction to particularly if it happens to be somebody not currently on council, the opportunity to have his or her, leadership and direction for council to consider. In my view, I have never intended by seconding it to say any word. I don't want that to hear the word delay. That's why I asked the question specifically while putting my name for a seconder to the commissioner. What would be the ramification on the scheduling? Having said that, I totally in support of the principle that Councillor Munch, I believe that's what I interpret it, is that provide the opportunity for the new mayor to be elected, the opportunity to provide input to set the direction. So I was supporting it on that basis. And I did not get a sense from the commissioner when answering my question. Yes, there may be some adjustment or changes on the project schedule, but I think someone else is asking using as a low any risk. I don't hear the any word at all. So unless somebody was saying that, if you're doing this, it would really thinking everything is off the wall. I think staff have done a good job today. Particularly, I'm really impressed with engagement, which outlined in page 33 and further on. So my intent is not really for the purpose of delay any ongoing work, but thus recognize that we will have a new head of council, new head of setting the direction. That's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chan. Okay, second round, I just want to say that I will support a referral, but I agree with Councillor West. We're there to give these key directions. The key directions dictate what happens next, and each sequential decision a council needs to be made. I'm not going to oppose a referral here if other councillors want more time to digest this mountain of work that's been done actually here. So Councillor Munch, it's your motion. You have up to 3 minutes to wrap up if you choose.
I'm surprised that our responsibility is even being debated. I'm surprised that we are in a mayor's race, not by any choice of me or any other member on council. And now that we are lacking a head of council to represent council, and we're having a mayor election, I'm very surprised to hear 3 of the 4 mayor candidates not showing that they have a vision that they want to drive forward, but they want to hear what staff has to say, and are worried about the timing of staff. We don't have a timing. We have a statutory requirement and responsibility. Surprised to hear 3 of the 4 members of council say today that they don't recognize that. We lead. You don't want to lead, become a bureaucrat. No problem. The public expects us to fulfill a duty and responsibility to follow their direction for their quality of life. I'm surprised people that are running for mayor aren't putting their leg forward, that they're kind of waffling. I didn't hear from the 4th. and the other people that are outside. Maybe that's why we need new blood. I don't know. But having said that is, we need to have a council that needs leadership. And this guiding document, it is a guiding document. And by the way, the official plan's in arrears. They do a plan now for 20 years from now. Even members of council at the last official plan discussion were saying, is this just a concept plan or are we moving forwards? We spent 3 minutes asking staff, can you implement? We ask now the Commissioner of Planning who put for the legal record at taxpayers' cost to say, I'm only a strategic thinker. Who is the strategic? Who's the visionary? Who's the party that's going to lead the city?
1 minute.
We need, ladies and gentlemen, if today ever shows, we really need a new blood on this council. And I look forward to hearing and hopefully getting people to have an active campaign so we can lead the city where it needs to go in line with our responsibility, because we're not there. So I almost want to pull this to say, let staff run the show, because that's what you guys seem to want. An aimless ship. Anyway, we'll let it run through. I'm surprised 3 of the 4 members of council showed no vision today. Absolutely stunned. Absolutely stunned when I gave you a mandate. Anyway, let's go for a vote.
Okay, so that concludes your remarks on your referral motion. So you're referring for 60 days. The staff recommendation in front of us. Was it? I'm sorry, I forgot who had seconded.
Councillor Chan.
Councillor Chan. Councillor Chan, you had seconded.
And I want a recorded vote. I want to see this recorded vote.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, could we have the motion on the screen?
Motion on the screen, yeah. So it's just to refer. Okay, there's the motion. Report back to council on February 9th. 2 months' time.
Like to speak, I haven't spoken to this yet.
We went to a 3rd round, Councillor, and you didn't indicate a desire to speak. Go ahead, Councillor Barrows.
I don't know why you feel you got to like reprimand me like that. That's not called for. I wanted to add my voice to the debate. So I'm looking at the motion now for the first time because it wasn't on the screen before. And we're referring this back to staff. Now, I guess I've got a bit of a problem with that from this perspective. We have all been working quite hard on this. There's no surprises here. We've had open houses. We've had residents put input. We've had business put input. This is by no stretch of the imagination the end of a very long process. So I don't know why we're stalling. We can just we can approve the work done thus far, knowing that there's still a larger body of work to come, and we can then change things before we get to the end of it. And this isn't a report, as I understand, saying that this is now done. We're just endorsing thus far. So you're looking for leadership, but yet we're not moving forward in anything now. That's a lack of leadership in a bit of a vacuum scenario. We either need to say we don't like what's been going on thus far, and here's where we need to change direction, or we need to say to staff, yeah, you're on the right track. But staff's going to take this back and they're going to go upstairs and they're going to sit around the board table and they're going to go, huh, okay, so who should we additionally consult that we haven't already heard from? I mean, I guess we can just hear from the same people again. But given today's delegation, there doesn't appear to be a outcry of members of the public saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe the direction you guys are taking. This is so completely wrong. Please stop. Now, I'll go along to get along, but really, I don't believe anything different is going to happen when this comes back. We're not giving staff any real direction on what specifically we have an issue with, and we'd like additional consultation to be done. The only other thing I can say is I will likely not be able to make the meeting of February the 9th, being that it's my birthday. So I like if we could make a decision today, but the vote's in front of us. Thank you so much for the ability to speak.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Farrells. Okay, I think we can call the vote. I think a recorded vote has been requested. So go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Voting on the motion, Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. Acting Mayor DiPaolo.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Silovitz.
No.
Thank you. Councillor West.
No.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Crowley. I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Barros.
No.
Thank you. The motion to refer does carry.
Okay. So that item is deferred. Okay, so members of council, we've got a member's motion and we've got two added motions. Could we take a 15-minute break? Would councilors be okay with that? Start resuming again at 4 o'clock? No, I see no objection. Okay, so at 4 o'clock we will resume. We got 3 more items to discuss.
5.
5, the clerk corrects me. So a little bit of work to do still. So at 4 o'clock sharp, we're going to start again. Thank you.